welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
Everyone, welcome to the Post-Human Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Turner. Tonight we have with us Joshua Scott Hotchkin. I've been reading some of his stuff. I can't quite say the best introduction. I was going to say you're a writer, a blogger. What would you describe yourself best as?
I kind of dabble in all of the creative things. I'm a musician, I make films. So a creative person, really.
Okay. Where can people follow you at, just so we can get that out of the way?
Well, I have several websites. I generally post all of the content at them to the Joshua Scott Hotchkin page on Facebook. There's an author page there.
I'll post a link to that at the end. So obviously, when I'll do it, I'll do a little write up and I'll whack that link in there. How was the?
I appreciate that.
Obviously, you said earlier when we was talking about the gym. How was it? What was you working on?
Oh, it was great. I just do a regular workout. I'm pigeon-toed, which means I was performing kind of a hip defect, and so strengthening my back muscles really kind of helps from having pain.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I've got 3 toes on my right foot, so there's like a centimeter sort of difference between my height. So I can, when you say you're pigeon-toed, that's what I'm like. Duck-footed is probably the best way to put it. It's like a duck foot.
Does that lead to any pain or?
A fair bit, but it's manageable. It's tricky when you're chasing around after a toddler, but it's a balance. Excuse me. So I was reading some of your articles. One of them, to get into a couple of them. Again, I'm a huge fan of stand-up, and you wrote an article about Louis C.K. 2017. I think that's the right year when you published it.
It might be, but the 2017 is also when I transferred my content from my old website. So a lot of articles that may have been out a year or two earlier.
Okay.
We'll say 2017.
Okay. There was a few articles, and that was a fantastic one. Another one that I found really hilarious was the woke chess. Immediately, when I went onto your the link that you sent me, the first category I went into was the humor and satire, for obvious reasons. And obviously, the first woke chess, I was like, let's read it, and it was hilarious. It was absolutely. There was some really good points that you'd made in terms of the moves, and especially the fact that the grey pieces. It was pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, I have another place where I write satire, but when I used to write for Cop Block. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's a police criticism website that's now mostly defunct. I mean, it's still there, but it's no one really running it. It's kind of on autopilot. I did a lot of satire there. I've kind of developed over the years, and I find it to be one of the most poignant ways of making, kind of statements about the world, is to sort of blow it up and show it, larger than life, and so people can see, the pores and the cracks and crevices.
You can also cover your own ass pretty well and strategically if you know how to word things correctly, so that the stupid people who don't read won't understand.
Yeah, you can fly above all the right heads in satire.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. What made you want to write? Because there's tons and tons of articles on there. That's a lot of. Obviously, you're saying before 2017. So what made you get into? I mean, the little short articles, which are fantastic because you can read them so quick. Like a 2-3 minute boom, and there's lots of knowledgeable points. And I want to know the sort of creative. What inspired you to do it, and what's the sort of creative process, if that makes sense?
Well, I started with fiction, really, and I started doing that, in my early 20s, just sending out little tiny stories to friends, silly little, surrealist bits or whatever. And I kind of did that for years. And then when the Cop Block gig came up, they they recognized the value of my writing, but I hadn't written a whole lot of nonfiction at
Okay.
that point. So I quickly became an editor and the lead writer. And so I was writing 3 to 5 things a day at that point for about 2 years straight in
Oh, wow.
2014, 15. And so just from there, I developed writing habits that, if I want to sit down and write, it just kind of comes to me. I just have to make the space around me and let it flow. And usually, I have thoughts I've had in the car at the gym or whatever. And, I just write those on a piece of paper and look at my piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like, what am I writing now? So,
Like one of these, like bunch of notes and scrap bits. Yeah, well,
yeah.
that's sort of what I was going to say. I was going to say, do you sort of pre-plan your topics, or like me, I'll just have an idea and I'll just and just jot it down and maybe leave it for a week or so, and then maybe come back to it. You know.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes stuff just instantly, I'm like thinking about something. I've interacted somewhere online or whatever, and I've thought about something, and I feel I have something to say right there. Sometimes I write stuff down and it sits for days or months as I kind of think about where I should take it or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Um, I like mixing it up. For a while, I was working this website, Readsy Prompts, and they give you 5 prompts a week, and there's a contest for
Okay.
just kind of short fiction. And I would do all 5 of them each week. I never won. I didn't expect to, but it's just good to have the discipline to be able to write on command and use someone else's kind of ideas to go
That's
from.
one of the best words to put into it as well, discipline. Because when you're writing, you need to be fucking disciplined. That's what I say when again, I'll jot something down, come back to it, because my discipline at the minute's pretty crap. I mean, for most of the shows that I'll do at the minute, I'll write a little bit out of notes, and then I'll sort of have a pre-plan sort of write out, but that could be like only I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 words sometimes. Um, and even then, that takes discipline just to be able to sit and just bang it out. So I couldn't imagine doing 5 a day. It's that's a lot of writing. How many words would they be typically?
Anywhere from usually 500 to about 2 or 3,000.
Bastard, man. But even then, it's not. It's not like you're just writing nonsense words down. When I've read some of your stuff, it's pretty up there. It's very well written. There's a lot of knowledgeable points. That's why I sort of was like, I just wanted to sort of half understand the process, because I enjoy writing, but I'm not nowhere near as on the level that you're at, sir. That's I'm impressed, but it's just going to take me a while to get through a lot of it. I will keep, because I love reading, and I'm going to keep following you, because there was a lot that I was like, oh man, I want to read this one, and then I'd scroll down a bit, like the Marilyn Manson, Martha Stewart one. I read that. That was pretty hilarious. There was the JFK one, the satire one, and with about the elite paedophile rings as well. And that was one of the ones I wanted to talk about, because you seem to have a lot of controversial subjects, and I like to talk controversy. So let's.
Okay.
What made you want to write that article about? I mean, it is satire, but again, there was tons of really well written points that made more sense.
Which one was that again?
It was about the elite paedophile rings, and it was a satire JFK article, I think. Um,
I got you. It was just at the time, at the time, you couldn't. I did writing for a website called Disinfo, which was kind of a controversial place. At the end, I was kind of instrumental in it going away too. But I was dealing with a lot of like kind of, I guess, people more on the conservative side
Yep.
a lot. And, if I switch, who I'm dealing with a lot, and whoever I'm dealing with kind of will inspire that. At the time, it was almost impossible to have a discussion with somebody without them, bringing up pedophile rings and whatnot. Like, every
Yeah,
conversation just ended with, well, that person's a pedophile. And so I just had to lambast that. A lot of times it's just like emotionally healing for me to take this bullshit that I have to hear day after day
yeah.
and like, spurt it back out in some way that makes me laugh.
It's a tricky thing to write about and to keep your head in all the time. Because again, it could sort of drive you half mad. You know, if you're sitting there delving into these topics, it's like conspiracy theorists. Once you start down the rabbit hole, you know, you're lost. And I guess if you were sitting there writing about paedophile rings 24/7, you're gonna get pretty twisted on the inside. You know, so I couldn't. Again, so it's good to tackle it from a satire point of view, just to keep your own sort of sanity. Um, when you was doing, what's one of the most controversial things you've wrote about as a
Well,
subject?
I'm a police
Okay.
abolitionist, and so it would probably everything I write about is controversial. I don't have a normal opinion or thought about
There's
anything,
but
but
there's nothing that's is there anything that's got you some real shit? Is what I'm.
I mean, the when I was at Cop Block, I got hate mail and death threats and that kind of stuff on a regular
Oh,
basis, and it just kind of came with the territory. Um, Anytime you're critical of something that people have kind of a Stockholm syndrome allegiance to, they're going to react badly because their identity and personality are wrapped up in this thing. They have so many attachments that to hear any kind of criticism of it, no matter how
yeah.
founded or well written, is going to just cause some cognitive dissonance and some anger and some resentment. So you get to deal with that coming back out. But it was worth it because there was, for every 20 of those, there was one person who thought about something a little bit differently than they had before.
Well, that's kind of the point. I mean, most people at the minute are so opinionated anyway, and they just want to attack anybody. Again, everyone's got a voice everywhere. We're talking now. You know, and I'm not bothered. I don't really take people's criticism on board, but when it's sort of the police, it is a tricky one. Are you one of these defund the police people?
Oh, I'm a full
Oh,
abolitionist, but there's a lot to that. There's a piece of writing I have called Chillville, which at the end of Cop Block, I was kind of tired of
okay.
tattletale shit. Like the I'm going to tell him this cop and how bad he is. Like that's just going nowhere. I kind of got into understanding the police psychology and where they're at. And I decided that it was, what needed to be written about was solutions, was an actual idea. So I have ideas. They're decentralist ideas in which communities take back their own
Okay.
power, and they find ways of funding themselves so they can support their community members, so they can cut off crime before it
How
starts.
would you
And instead of having
how would you go
police,
about that? Just before you go into the next little bit, how would you? So if you wanted normal people to do that, it's almost like you're saying we're going to be all vigilantes. Is that what you sort of?
well, no, I kind of break down what police do into a few different categories, and we look at ways of having people who can deal with those things still in our community who aren't traditionally police. You're going to need the people that can go out and deal with things when
Yeah,
it gets really bad. But
yeah.
an example we already have is volunteer fire
Okay,
departments.
yeah,
That and we could have that. Then most of the time when most of police work isn't going out and dealing with a super extremely violent situation. So
it's very true.
if we just have people in our communities who are ready to deal with just that, and that's all they deal with, I think that we're
Yeah,
much
yeah,
better off. And then you have other kind of things. If you have like events and stuff, you obviously need some kind of eyes out there, security keeps it under control. I don't get rid of all of the things that police do, but I do get rid of things like collecting
yeah. No,
fines to run
there's
your city, which is policing in America. And that's why at the same time, Chillville isn't just about getting rid of police, but in this example, they they build an automated factory, and everyone in this community is a co-owner of it, and they make rare auto parts, and they ship them all over, and that money goes to all of these programs that they have, and any leftover goes out as a dividend to the people who live there. So there's a basic living wage for
okay.
everyone who needs it, and everything is funded through this production rather than fines and whatnot.
I mean, that makes a lot of it. Does it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know it's like again, you don't need them handing out fines if you've just done a speeding charge. Or there's so many little things, like little domestic incidents. There's a lot of times in the UK where people just call the police on you and grash you up for having loud music or just normal nonsense shit. and that's not needed. You know, there's a lot of real crime that is happening. I'm not all for abolishing the police, but I think there's some really little areas that ain't really needed. Like you said, you know, there's door to door crap is completely irrelevant. They're not. It's a waste of time. It's a big waste of time. There's tons and tons of knife crime in the UK at the minute. And I think half of the reason for that is because the police don't have so many powers, and they're too busy dealing with minor incidents. And so, one thing that I read about a while ago was someone was, well, I take mushrooms and I smoke weed and I do whatever, and I was looking at importing some just for microdosing purposes from the Netherlands. And obviously, because of Brexit, that couldn't happen. And I was reading on a Reddit forum that basically someone had the police knock on their door because their parcel got seized at customs, and they just gave them a warning. But they come round, little knock on the door, here's a fucking letter, sir, and a warning. And it's like, you really need to do any of that, you know? The package was seized, and they could have just sent a fucking letter. But there was a few of them that all was like, yeah, I got that too. And I was like, that's kind of a waste of time. They're going, you know, it's... Anyway, let's sitting there ranting about the police for... So we could go... I mean, I could go on about it. But you did... One of the other things that you mentioned some of your articles is Alex Jones. I like to ask all of my guests about Alex Jones because I'm a huge conspiracy theorist. But not bullshit. You know, I'm not a fucking QAnon. I'm not down those rabbit holes. There's flat Earth. No, there's little conspiracies, but it's more about like history that we're not being told. But I watch Alex Jones and Infowars because I think he's a funny bloke who comes up with some random shit. What's your opinions on the guy?
Like I actually I was at the Republican National Convention back in 2016, and he was speaking there, and like he pulled off this huge dopey kind of you know, like act where he then ran for 3 blocks like to his truck pretending a terrorist act against him, and it was all completely made up. And I followed them the entire way with the camera.
Oh, really?
I think it's on YouTube somewhere, but. Then he came out and talked to people, and he was just so fucking arrogant. It was just like, you know, and yeah, you're right. It's humorous. Like, yeah. It's probably more humorous to watch him than actually talk to him because he's just so into himself.
The only reason I find him funny is just because, I smoke cannabis a lot, and I just like to sit and smoke him, and then you just never knew. Yeah, I am too. I made sure that I smoked 2 spliffs before I started. I normally drink on my show, but I've had like 3 days of solid drinking, and it was it's not been fun. Well, it was fun, but today I couldn't. I'm on a household ban today, so. But every person I ever ask about Alex Jones thinks they're a knob, and I find it just hilarious. He is a bit of a knob. He's one of them where if you sit and have a smoke and just wait for those little gold moments, just where you can. Just crease, you know. But you write a lot of satire. Have you ever done anything like stand up? Because you look a bit like a comedian. I know that sounds strange, but you've got that sort of comedian look about you. I don't know how that means. It's a random. You do look a bit like a comedian, though. If I went to a club, I could imagine you being on stage, sort of almost doing your kind of articles, but in that sort of a stand-up format.
Stand-up has been a goal. I've got a little bit of stuff written. When I'm moving in a few months, and when I get to this new place, I'm going to be taking some of my memoirs and short stories and satire pieces out and performing them, you know, at nightclubs and shit, open mics, whatnot. Yeah, and at that point, I might get comfortable enough where I can do something more, you know, like stand up, you know, not reading from a script or whatever. But I'm kind of going to start there and see how it goes.
Stuff's that good that you could. I mean, that woke chess. obviously you could easily cut that down into just little bits. Obviously, even the fact that it'd be just difficult to act it out because it's two people, but it's not really that difficult. I mean, if you could pull that off, I think it'd be fucking gold. It'd be brilliant. It was just so funny, just the responses, and I think you should go for it, man, because there's some really funny stuff. And you look like a comedian, so I think you should. You'll just blend into the environment.
Yeah, I have a strange and now I'm often confused. Like a woman last week at the grocery store thought I was her son. You know, I had my mask on and everything, but she eventually came to me. She's like, "What's your problem? You know, like you're my son, and you're not. Oh, you're my son." She thought I was like ghosting her right there at the grocery store.
That's hilarious.
But I have at least a dozen times in my life been mistaken for another Joshua. People come up and be like, Josh, and I'll be like, yeah, and they're like,
did you go to the Joshua fight? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I saw about it. Yeah. It was specifically for Joshua.
Oh yeah, of course.
Name, so
yeah.
Two people.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I didn't realise with the last name. Then I was like, oh, another Joshua. You could have gone. Could have killed that kid. Clubbed him. I think a child won in the end, didn't he? A little boy. Yeah, they gave it to him.
Yeah,
fuckers. I'd have took that fucking prize, man. Fuck that kid, man.
Beat that kid down.
It was a good thing to watch. I remember when the guy dropped the obviously the tweet, the post, whatever, and I thought that's never going to happen, and then it did, and I was like, holy shit! I was literally in tears. It was amazing. So I'm just going to eat some cannabis and get munching.
I didn't hear about it till afterwards, so I guess I took a pretty long break from Facebook for a while because it's so fucking toxic. I mean, I hate Facebook, but then after about 6 months, I was like, well, I need to re-promote my writings and, you know, churn the waters of my website. So I get back on and do it for a little while, and then I'll eventually, you know, need to get my sanity back and go off again. So.
Over the years, because I've been on social media since it come out, but over the years, and it's something I regret doing, is removing my friends and getting rid of shit, and it's almost creates some sort of weird algorithm, I believe, in the background where it fucks you over for years, because it's really difficult for people to find me now for some reason. It's quite bizarre, but it's almost like they're going, hey, we know what you're going to do soon. You're going to fucking come back off. So I tried to forget about the toxic shit on there now. It is pretty toxic, but it's not. I think Twitter's worse. It's you get a lot more shit on there. God.
Yeah, I've all of them. The worst is absolutely the worst is Reddit. Reddit is like the cesspool of social media. It's like the biggest echo chamber, and everyone in Reddit is a cop out policing each other, and you can't step even a little bit out of the lines of anything or have any opinion that's not pre-approved, or else you're just like. I've had so much stuff banned from Reddit, you know, just because I refuse to take the one or two of the, you know, popular talking points and adopt them. And so if you have any kind of, you know, third, fourth, fifth, other kind of opinion or idea on something, Reddit will just eat you up and spit you the fuck out. I use
Reddit quite a lot just because I can pick my own sort of groups. So I don't really, I've never really had anything really shit on there or banned. The only time I did, and I forgot to put it on, bear with me 2 seconds. This is again, my dad bought me a coat. Bear with me a second. Where is that fucking coat? I bet it's gone. Oh well, too late. Fuck it. I've got a coat that's they're quite famous in the UK for being worn by old ladies. And surprisingly, they're actually the most warmest jackets ever. And I basically put a post up. I got it for my birthday. It was a joke, like a running joke. I'll send you a picture. It's a dog coat, and it's literally red with little shitty dogs on it. And I thought, fuck it, man. And I'm into cryptocurrency. Huge on Dogecoin. And I thought I'll post it on Reddit on the Doge chat. And basically, people must have thought I was retarded or something. because I put it on there and like people were sort of defending me weirdly enough. Like some guy said some weird shit. I can't remember what he said, but everyone was everyone was just like, "Hey, leave him alone," and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here? These people think I'm like fucking stupid or something." Like, like I was getting ready to all that go for it, and I was like, "Motherfucker, this is chatting some shit about me." Okay, let's go. And then what unfolded was like half an hour's worth of people just telling this guy to back off. I truly think they must have thought I was just a stupid, feeble-minded person, and I am. But you know, it was a funny, just a funny moment. What do you think of it?
It's a beautiful coat. What you must have shit underneath it.
Oh man, what a rocking combination! That'd be a combination.
Well
I'd need
said.
some
Yeah.
sort of piano type of fucking key trousers or something to go with some really out there wacky trousers. Like definitely, you ever seen like a denim tie? That's
Oh
you
yeah.
just need to create some weird outfit. That's what you should wear when you go on stage. When you do stand up, wear that fucking shirt. I'm gonna wear my dog coat because I'm just waiting for clubs to open myself. But that's gonna be my. I'm gonna be the guy, the fucking guy in the dog coat. It's so yeah, it's gonna be hard to forget.
Love
It's a
it.
good coat. I've got some more notes here. Let's have a look. Here's a question. I'm actually feeling a bit more super high now. I've just chewed up that big bud. And like I say, normally I drink, so my mind's more free flowing. But if you had to write an article for a bunch of aliens that come to Earth, you know, to describe the human race as it is now, what would you write?
Well, the
No.
way we live, I, I would write that they missed us at our peak, that we're currently undergoing an intellectual decline precipitated by social media and internet culture, and to try to be forgiving
When
of
do you
us
think we was
that
at
they
our
missed us at our
best?
best. Well, I think somewhere around the turn of the century, sometime around
Hmm.
when social media and the internet really took over. The like button is just such a strong conditioning tool. Like it's so Pavlovian that after a while you stop doing things that are genuine and authentic to you, and you
Likes.
start doing the things that
Hmm.
are going to get you
Just
that little bit of
it's
a
a reward
reward.
system.
And so it yeah, and that reward system causes everyone to conform. I think there's pretty much two non-player character
Hmm.
types out in the world now, where there used to be many more. And it's the godly conservative and the scientific liberal, and neither of them can see anybody else in the world. If you're not one of them, then they'll just call you the other one and
It's also
set you
such
up
a
for that
bad
straw
reward
man.
system as well
But
because if I don't really give a shit. I'll post all the time and get my own one upvote on Reddit. There's some people out there that are like hating on themselves if they don't get them likes. They're like, oh man, I've only got fucking 3 today and I had 11 yesterday, and it's a bad reward system because if you don't get the rewards, then you're fucked because you feel shit and then you have to try and outdo yourself the next day. If that makes sense.
yeah, and even if you're not conscious of wanting likes or whatever, I mean, that's the way that conditioning works is, and it gets off the internet too. You start expecting to get
Mm.
the sort of affirmation and gratification out of social situations way too easily, and so we've stopped trying really hard. We instead, like, we've reduced everything to agreeable tropes, and we kind of gather around and associate around those, but the world just feels
Well, I mean, that's
entirely
because
less
people
authentic
aren't
than it
acting
used to.
authentic either. It's, you can see people that post on Instagram and they look like they've got a wicked great life, but most of the time they're just in and as an example, there's a guy and he got caught out because he was just going into shops and making out like he was buying shit and he was trying it on basically in the changing room, taking a picture and then like, look what I'm fucking wearing today in the mirror, like a fucking 10 grand suit, and he was doing it for a while and then got caught out. And it was just like, you ain't rich. You're just going into fucking supermarket shops and trying on the goods and cheating the camera angle a little bit so it looks like you're in your own home. Yeah, they cut him out. It's pretty good. I can't remember his name. I'm not going to shout him out, even if I could remember his name.
It's just so superficial, you know. It's not just that it's inauthentic, it's that it's superficial at the same time, which is, you know, if people aren't at least somewhat looking for some depth in their life and their activities and how they present themselves, then they're just not going to grow and develop and evolve as people. And that is why I would tell the aliens to remember they're not dealing with us at our best.
Some of us are. Some of us are. You know, some of us I think aren't, especially mentally. And a lot of it's so subliminal, you know. It's almost like we're being programmed neurolinguistically through everything. It's a strange year. You know, it's definitely been a strange year. I'm hoping that it's going to be. There's loads of talk about the Roaring Twenties, and I think that might become a potential.
I hope so. I'm seeing. I don't know. I'm concerned right now. Like that people have entered this mode of safety so hard that like we've become so risk averse that like I think that there will be a roaring 20s factor, and I think that there will also be a lot of people who are kind of now have been antisocially conditioned that it's going to take a long time for them to get any kind of semblance of risk enjoyment.
A wiser man than me. you make some really good points. I'm having to wrap my head around some of them. Look, so
yeah, well, I mean, we were. I'm sorry. We evolved for a million years towards higher social behaviors. This was the strength of human beings: is that we were highly social and could cooperate, and that's how we got to the top of the food chain. And even a year's disruption in our social behaviors is going to do damage to something that it took a million years to develop.
Coming out, it's pretty wild at the minute in terms of just crime and gatherings. And if we weren't locked up for that year, it's probably would be way better, way different. I'm not a massive. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've not got one yet. My partner has. I know a lot of people that have. I haven't got one because I'm not massively bothered. Again, I like to talk controversial shit. It's not that I don't care about people. It's just I'm an extreme introvert who barely goes anywhere, and the chances of me physically doing anything or getting anything is pretty high. And I'm on a shitload of supplements. I'm always training and keeping healthy, and I think that this should be a personal choice as to get it. What's your thoughts on that? Because you're a controversial person, so let's.
Oh, definitely. We're seeing like a lot of talk about mandated vaccines, which any kind of mandated healthcare is just what the fuck are we talking about? That's straight up fascism. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if science says it's okay or not. That's the human liberties don't begin and end where science says it's okay for them to trespass on us. That's what religion did, and that's how we ended up in a theocracy in dark ages for hundreds of years. And the same thing can happen with science if it steps outside of its lane and decides it's going to become an authoritarian.
I mean, from a point of view that, I lost my train of thought. Then sorry. that bud's going. You're going to regret that now. As I just chomped away. Just not making me a coffee, please. Mate. Sorry. I'm just getting a coffee on order. I know. That's. Now, normally I drink a lot as well. I like to keep the vocal cords fucking okay. Yeah. Have you got vaccinated yet? Yeah, same back.
No, I haven't. My partner's gotten it. I haven't, just because. I mean, I think that for decades we decided that trial testing should be a years-long process and very in-depth with all kinds of different factors considered, and rushing 3 competing vaccines to the market, like we just have no idea what the effect of that is going to be on
Well,
individuals
well,
or,
that's the big one.
epigenetically
Is
or any of these things. And so I'm kind of
epigenetically is the big side of
sitting
it. You
back
know
and
about
watching.
microplastics and stuff, and how much that has a huge effect and impact on fertility and testosterone, and we're struggling to get rid of that. We, you know, that's a man-made thing. We made plastic. We're sitting here making shit all the time. Teflon, that fucked us up. There's so many things that we made that are fucking us up, and to make a vaccine so fast, when I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible because we are getting more technologically advanced, but it did seem very fast. And I've never. The point I was going to make is, I never get the flu jab. I've never once got it. The only jabs I've ever had was the main ones you get as a kid. Polio and TB and all the crazy ones. But I'm not. If I don't get a yearly flu jab, I'm not gonna get one. If I really have to, I probably will. But I'm not. I'm not saying no, but I'm also. I'm not bothered. And I'm also not bothered if anybody else does or doesn't.
Yeah.
It's their choice, their body. Same way in which people shouldn't give a fuck about smoking or drinking, or if your body, if you're going to be a heroin addict, go for it. So, why not?
That's all of my morals and ethics flow from a single set of principles: the individual's self-ownership, their bodily autonomy, and their personal agency. And I reject anything that violates those, including vaccine mandates. There's no authority in the world which I believe is able to take away those personal basic
What about the
liberties,
Illuminati?
that you own yourself.
They might be taking away a lot of shit. The secret government. What about those? The cabal. Do you believe in that?
I obviously the ruling class, the rich people, are colluding in some ways because all of the wealth and power in the world hasn't been funneled to this small percentage of people without them, working together to ensure that. I don't know if any of the things like Illuminati or whatever make sense to me. I mean, I started reading about the Illuminati when I was in, my early 20s because I was a huge Rob Anton Wilson fan, and read the Lumos trilogy and became a Discordian, and I've got some tattoos. Basically, I've basically got a Illuminati tattoo on my.
You remember?
I don't. I always took it as sort of.
Is there a picture somewhere with you fucking doing it?
I tried.
Got the fucking our symbolisms on the go. Yeah, man. Yeah.
I wish I'd be the poorest.
You're on the waiting list.
The organization.
Yeah.
I'm outside the door of the waiting room. The janitor's
it'll be sweeping around you for years. I mean, it's always an interesting thing. I don't necessarily believe there is an Illuminati, so to speak. There probably is a bunch of rich people that just meet up and have a laugh and discuss stuff. It's pretty, everyone does that. It's just, the rich has to socialise too. It's they're not going to do it with us bunch of scumbags, are they?
I think that probably around the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. There has been some
1899 to 1900. Around that time, there were definitely I think more organized attempts at that, and I think that basically they set up a kind of a system, international oligarchy where future generations didn't have to know what the fuck was going on or what they were participating in. It just kind of was self-sustaining and self-perpetuating.
Around, obviously there was a Freemasons way back when, but obviously there was a lot more cults obviously around World War II and stuff as well, and obviously again around the turn of the century with Aleister Crowley and tons of weird little cults. Obviously you had the Bohemian Grove stuff and There was Skull and Bones. There's a couple in the UK as well. I can't remember them all now. There's some fucking weird. There's a Freemasonry in Scotland as well, I think. I'm pretty sure that's where Mr. Crowley was for a bit, leading his fucking role.
Yeah, he had the castle.
Oh, I didn't know he
there
bought that.
Jimmy
That's crazy.
Page
Oh,
later bought and lived in.
maybe he's part of the took over the business.
That's where
Well,
he takes teenage girls to have sex with them.
You'd know you're in the Illuminati, pal. You got the tats to prove it.
Yeah.
I thought about
getting
getting one
one
years ago just as a joke, but you just never know. You want to get it in an obvious place, like on your fucking neck, or you don't want it hidden. You want it blatant as day. Like, oh, you want it just right there, in the middle of your fucking head, Charles Manson style. That's the way you want to do it. Just a third eye. Let's. I mean, 40 minutes in. Let's discuss some pictures. Let's try and blast through. Normally my show's about an hour, so I'll send you the first one, and I'll just give some little questions. I had to jot this down. Normally I'm pretty speedy on this. So, for those listeners out there, it's a red sort of playground piece of apparatus. It looks pretty fucked up. I'll post some pictures up later. My question, why the fuck do you think that thing was designed? What do you think it was designed for?
Somebody took a fleshlight apart.
A flashlight?
Real big joke.
Is that what the inside of one looks like?
That's what I would assume they look
Have you
like.
got one?
I've not torn one apart yet. Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah, as if I'm going to do that.
Let's see what's in this bad boy.
Right after the next
Why does this
meeting.
feel so damn good? Let's fucking investigate. Yeah, but it literally just looks like a ribbed slide. It looks like a slide. Would you say it's a slide? Yeah. If you was to use it as a slide, which celebrity would you push down it?
I would probably push
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Amber Heard.
She kind of needs a good push. I'm gonna lose most of the remaining 5% of my
asshole.
female listeners just on that one. Yeah, it's we had a split 50-50 at one point, and we're going to 12th gear on that, and just really fucking. We're trying to get it to. No, I'm only joking. I'm not trying to get it to 0. It'd be interesting to see if it ever does. I'd like to know who that 4% female listener. Who are you? Why are you listening to me? Get in touch.
Yeah. Well, ladies, you need to get against Amber Heard, because this is the kind of person who is exploiting actual trauma and real people's pain and turning it into a circus, and it's going to make it harder for you to believe.
Yeah, you see,
believe in
if
the
I was to
future,
push
because
someone
she
down
needs
there,
the attention.
I'd probably have to pick. It sounds stupid, but yeah, again, I don't even know if I'm going to say it, because it was a woman as well. So that's terrible. I'm almost setting myself up for a complete fail. Maybe I should just change my answer and just stick. I'm just going to stick with Amber Heard too. Fuck it. Oh, cheers, computer, for telling me my virus protection is running. Thank you. Thank you for interrupting me. Yeah, we'll both stick with Amber Heard, and I'll just wait for the shit to roll in. I'll let you know if that 4% changes. All right, let's get the second one.
All right.
This was extremely improvised, just because you said you was going to the gym. So, what do you think of that guy in the lineup of what would be a bunch of chiseled gods, and what would be just some normal looking dude? Number 72 is the guy we're talking about. What made you think? Again, he's entering a bodybuilding competition. He's the scrawny guy. He shouldn't be in that fucking position. What made you think? What made you think he wanted to enter that, or do you think it's some sort of joke? Because I don't think it is. I think he's legitimately trying to compete with that gorgeous frame of his.
See, my guess was
I was
this
hoping it
just
wasn't.
this was
I was
this
hoping it
man's
was a real
knockout.
moment. I might.
There are
I
some
mean,
people that are just not
I'd like to
self-believing
know
in
what
their
his
face, so I give
because
you that.
again, if he's entering a bodybuilding competition, I want to know what his personal record is. His personal bests seem like they could be pretty low. It looks like the kind of guy that's sitting there curling the women's weights. So I'm kind of just slandering the world in this show. I'm gonna fucking ruin everybody and myself. Yeah, if you had to judge him in that competition, where would you place him? I'd give him first place. I just think fuck it, he deserves it. Um,
Oh yeah, definitely. All those other guys, it wasn't very. It didn't take a lot of courage or bravery for them to come out. You know, they belong there.
I mean,
This guy,
it's
it's gonna
physically
take every bit
impressive
of
because I'm
courage
not
that
a
he had.
jack dude. I'm not massively ripped, but even I would be a bit self-conscious about entering that tournament. And he looks deadly serious when I look at his face. So serious. He looks pissed off that he's going to get bad judgment from it. Mm.
Maybe he's a great actor. Maybe
Mm.
maybe he's a method actor and he's got a
Maybe.
role coming up,
Maybe.
and this
See, this
is
is why I
how
ask
he's
these
getting
random
into it.
questions, just because you never know what people are going to say. Right, let's get this third picture on the go. Let's wheel through this last one. This one's an easy one. This one, I only did that second one because of the gym. I was like, let's quickly whack one out. So this one is of... oh, I haven't come through yet. Can't even read my own notes. Terrible. What a shit pen. It's taking a while. There we go. So, third picture is of an old-timey advert of a baby shaving with a razor blade. Now, I have got nothing against that parent who let that baby use that razor blade. Obviously, it's not a real baby. It's clearly fake. But why the fuck made you think that advertising would have been relevant? I know, obviously, the point is a baby's face is so smooth that you can get your face that smooth, but you don't really need to use a baby because a baby has a smooth face, so you can't get rid of any stubble to prove how great the razors would be. What made you think they'd choose that design tactic? It was a poor one, I think.
Well, I think that just from an evolutionary psychology standpoint, we're pretty much all programmed to be interested in babies, to be disarmed when we see a baby's face. So we're automatically disarmed, which makes it easier for them to do their advertising instead of us, having
Makes a
some
good
kind
point.
of reaction
That's
against
another reason
being
why I'm glad I had you on the
advertised
show,
to.
because again, that's a pretty legitimate good answer. I haven't got one. I didn't write one. My son's 2 years old, almost. Do you think it's a bit too early for me to start him shaving? Yeah. I mean that baby's
Oh,
about
definitely
4 months
not.
old,
Definitely
so
not.
it's barely got teeth, and it's holding a fucking razor blade. So my son's got teeth. I think I should start him off early, and then by the time that he's like 10, he could probably have like a beard like yours. Like yeah, it does. It was probably
This baby looks
well,
kind
this
of
was probably
drunk
back
too.
then when it was Gillette did this advert, by the way. That was Gillette. I didn't even realise it was Gillette. Sons of bitches. He does look drunk. It looks like it almost looks like a Chinese baby. Yeah, I know that sounds pretty
Like
terrible,
an
but
albino Chinese baby that's
it's
drunk.
just I don't know. It's the way it looks to me. I think that's my questions. Look at that. Boom. Did you manage to get any pictures, sir?
I did. I don't
Well, I'm sure
know.
they'll be more appropriate than mine.
Approach
Mine
with
were
a
pretty
lead,
on the
but let's do
fly.
it.
And I also wrote one of them sober, two of them sober, which is a bad decision. Normally, my process is heavily drink orientated. I'm a functioning alcoholic. I think I'm a pretty damn good one. I can normally nail about 13 cans and still have a good writing session, or at least that's what I think until the next morning, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what is this shit? Wait a minute, I've signed up to where? Fuck.
I attempted to make a podcast years ago, and I was doing the practice by myself, drunk, and the next day I listened to it, and like I was not even speaking words. I was just like, so I did end up making an audio file out of it that was me
That sounds a
sober
great thing to do.
wow.
Wow. See, I'm
kind of hilarious.
There's not many shows that I'm not drinking, but I've never thought about taking that. I did have one where the guest it fucked up and I lost the audio. So I said I was just going to record my son and then dub it over him. So I was just going to then redo all my audio because I knew what I said, and then just take my son's babble and nonsense and just post it over. But it was a good idea in my head. But then when I come to do it, I was like, it's going to take a while. I haven't got time. But that sounds such a good thing. You should podcast. You should, because you've got so much material. You could just. It take next to no time. Again, it's a 2-3 minute article. You could just read them all back out.
Yeah, I've definitely been thinking about doing it. I'm when I moved to Tulsa from New Mexico in a few months, I have some friends there that I'm going to be playing some music with, and we're going to be setting up some.
What do you play
and stuff? So I think that at that point I will start doing it, but it. Well, I play guitar, but I play a little bit of, I play bass as well. I'll play, a little bit of keyboards or drums.
My music skills aren't that good.
Yeah.
A little bit of sort of digital stuff, a little bit, I used to have a vocoder, and, I used to fuck about on Ableton a lot, but it was just a long process of just tampering with knobs, and you're trying to get everything right, and it's another reason that I don't edit my shows. That's why I laughed when you said that you'd listen back. Whew, I haven't listened to any of mine back. Not a single one. I listen to a little bit to make sure the audio's there, and then I go, okay, we're good. Let's fucking post it. The first time I did, I was like, I sound like that? Oh, shit. We're not listening to that. My accent's horrible. It's like the worst UK accent because I'm right in the middle. It's also slightly common, but not as well. It's a weird accent, and listening to it back is no, I don't like the sound of that. We just post and ghost that shit. I don't edit. It's not that bad. I think the only thing is, do you know when you have headphones on and you're singing and you're like, oh, that sounds okay. That sounds pretty good, and then you fucking. You get drunk and go, let's try this on fucking online. See how good we sound. And you go, whoa, people are hearing that. I'm not doing that no more. Let's just hum, fucking, rather than hitting those high pitched notes. All right, that was my phone, so that was the picture. Let's have a look. Okay. That's it's a silhouette of a camera and somebody's head, obviously projecting our eyes. And predicting a globe, or it looks like a flat Earth from this angle. Okay.
It's not intended to be flat.
Oh, you made it.
Just the world.
Oh, cool.
These are all images that I.
What made you? What was it just for? What did you make it for? Is it just like a logo?
Well, I am a philosophical idealist, so this was meant to sort of portray how our perceptions are, also a creation, that we're creating what we're perceiving. So the process of seeing is.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
Projects what is seen.
You ever seen Wild West, where they take the there's a scene where a guy gets his head chopped off.
No, I haven't.
And then there's a scientist, and he fucking puts a projector at the back of his head, and it casts out like his last image in his eyes onto a fucking board. Reminds me of that. It's a cool, weird. It's a cool picture. I thought it was like a
Nice.
branding logo. It looks pretty professional. That's why I was like, oh, where does that come from?
I mean, I took all of these little elements, just from
Uh,
online and put them together. So I didn't actually render
I
any
know
of
what you did.
these images
Yeah,
myself.
my first
I
logo
just kind of
was like that. I
combined
took
them
like some
and
emojis, dumped them all on top of each other, and then just added one singular effect. And I was like, cool, we're done. And it stayed that way for 1 month. It was a lot of dedicated work went into that. It was a hard one. It was so much time. I mean, it must have took 45 seconds at best. Yeah, it's not bad for a free thing. It took no time. But then I fucking changed it, and then which was a smart move because my new one's amazing. Another shout out, thank you again to Max Milgate for that one. Um, let's say you got any more pictures? Let's get these last ones out. Sorry, I have to excuse my phone going off there. It's
yeah.
normally on silent, and normally it's but for some reason my dad's texting me. He must have knew I was talking about the dog coat. He must have heard me. Let's have a look at a second. Did you take it? You made that one. You a fan of Insane Clown
Yeah.
Posse by any chance? Juggalos.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a I'm a fan of
See,
the
I like.
phenomenon.
I actually like Insane
I'm not
Clown Posse,
necessarily a part of
which is
it.
crazy. I don't like any of their new stuff. I like the old stuff, like the Great Milenko, and yeah, they're a wild couple of guys. Very wild, man. What?
Yeah, I worked with one of them in like one of their other bands. I used to work at this punk rock club, doing load in and security stuff, and they're kind of, I don't know which one it
This.
was. I can't remember, but they were sort of ridiculous. Like this was this little tiny club, and to get up into the place you play, you had to go up these like super old stairs. Like someone was just going to die on these any day now. And they wanted us to carry up this huge, giant box apparatus, and the only purpose of it was one of them was going to jump out of it at the beginning of the show, and we had to be like, no, just no. Like, can you see that this is not physically possible? That if we even got up the stairs, it wouldn't go through the door. I'm not going to carry it up to dry. So no. And like they kind of
Yeah,
threw a
yeah,
fit. But
they're crazy guys.
that's
I'm
you're
a sort
used
of
to
a
doing
huge
that when you
fan.
deal with like
I
musicians.
remember growing up, I used to listen to them quite a lot. But then over the years, your music tastes change, and when you're sitting there listening to two clowns in your mid-20s, you're going, wait a minute, this is getting a bit weird. And then there is a huge cult phenomenon there.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre that they're labelled as a real gang, which is yeah, no,
I think
they
that they
did.
won
Yeah,
a
they did win a
case.
case, but the
They
fact that
they
they
can
did
own
that
the
years ago,
defense
and
people
then
want
they
to
had
classify
to,
them as a gang.
so they should. They're not fucking doing anything. Just a bunch, but they could if they assembled, because it's a pretty tight, close knit community. So if that was probably what they was worried
Yeah.
about, that if these two clowns got fucking wacky, and then they said, "Hey, let's go and fucking do this, people!" Ha ha ha! And then everything went fucking tits up, and there was riots, which has happened. There's something that happened in Skegness in the UK a fair few years ago, I think, and that was an incident. So I think that they can, if they wanted to, sort of mobilise, and it could it might go wrong. I think that they could tick off the wrong people, and maybe Amber Heard will start coming after them as well. We'll name drop them both and hope that we can sort of send some weird algorithms at play. I don't know if it's possible to name drop it that way. I suppose you could. The internet's weird, picks up weird shit. Ninja, yeah, stealth rhythms.
Yeah, some ninja rhythms.
Have you got the last one? I'm actually that's that's hilarious. Just the
Got
way
the
she
last
looks.
A friend of mine does wheat pasting stuff, kind of removable graffiti, and he was wanting to do one about.
Yeah.
He's neither left or right. He makes fun of all politicians equally, but he wanted to do a Biden thing, and he was leaning a little too serious. And I talked him into. I was like,
Yeah.
just make it kind of funny, dude. Like make him a juggalo, and so he did that. And then like at the time, I was without a computer, but as soon as I got a computer, I made him the companion piece for it. So
I'd like to see that. I'll post if you send me the link, and I'll post it up. Again, what's your thoughts on Sleepy Joe Biden? Just while we're talking about him, do you think he's going to go full term?
I mean,
oh yeah,
oh yeah. I don't think he's keeling over. He's got like a 63% approval rating or whatever. It's pretty easy. Just not be an inflammatory asshole.
I mean, it's not that tricky to not do that. It's pretty hard to hate an old man. He looks like a nice, pleasant old man as well compared to Trump. I'm a Trump fan. I think he's funny as fuck. He's in that same category as Alex Jones to me. He's a prick, but a ridiculous, wild guy who just has no filter. And it literally.
Which cartoon?
It's that is a strange. Okay. Now there's got to be some sort of. You're gonna have to definitely talk about this. What the fuck is going on here? It's got to turn my phone round 4 different angles to read the fucking.
Well, I had heard people talk that love and hate were,
okay,
a binary situation, though they were the opposites of one another. And I just never found that to be true. So, and just like meditating on, is love the opposite of hate? What's really the opposite? And I decided, it's not love. It's just not giving a fuck at all. That's the opposite. Hate is still kind of passionate. You still care somewhat.
Okay.
The opposite of love is to just not care at all. So doing that, I kind of wanted to set up a way of looking at emotions and ideologies or whatnot. Ways of thinking about the world in a way that was a bit different than most people were used to thinking.
You clearly made that because you said that you made all of them. So I'm gonna post that up because it's I now understand it. But for a second, I was like, "Is this a fucking?" I almost thought it was like a game board. Do you know, like a Ludo type deal where I don't know. You could turn it into a game board. You could get some grey pieces on there. You could create some rules for that. This the indifference game.
Yeah, that would be fun. The game.
It's a good one, man. Have you got any? I like to finish up my show with just some like shit to recommend, as in like books or films, anything, bands. So is there anything that you could recommend, not only myself, but for those little listeners out there?
Well, bands. Archers of Loaf. That's one of my favorite bands growing up, and in about 1998, 99, I think they went on hiatus for many years. And last year they had just started to put out a few new songs, and then everything shut down, and so their plans to put out the whole album and to go on tour were killed. But I believe that the new album is coming out sometime this year, and they'll be going on tour at the end of the year. So if you've never heard of Archers of Loaf before, it's the coolest kind of post
really obscure
indie band that you've never heard of.
Even in English, it's mostly in Finnish, or it's like polka type music. I listen to a lot of crazy shit that my partner hates it physically. I sit and talk about polka music, and I just get like this look of almost polka music. You love it, remember? Fucking love it. Polka music, yeah. Even then, I like. I listen to anything, but I like a lot of sort of industrial type stuff, and I like. There's a band called Termion Catalot. They're like a really good Finnish sort of band. Yeah, nobody really has There's
Heard of
there's
them.
tons of. I listen to. I don't even like. I don't like English music. It's a very rare. There's an English artist that I like. Um, so I'll have to check them out. What were they called again? I'll just jot it down because I'm not going to listen back to this, so I'm going to get it now. Uh, yeah.
Archers of Loaf. It's it's a, it's,
No,
it's a
No,
difficult
I've got
name
it. I've
because it
got it
doesn't
down.
make any sense when
It
you say it.
sounds like you
Like,
said
what the hell are you talking
loaf. Do you know,
about?
like as in bread? Like the archers of bread?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
no, that's a good name.
They just made up a
What about
nonsense
any
name and stuck with it. So
books? You haven't got to, you know.
you know, I worked in a bookstore for years before I moved out here to New Mexico, and even before that, I just constantly read all the time. And the past few years, I've kind of taken a little bit of a break. The last things I really read are the last Chuck
Okay,
Klosterman book and
I've not heard of
the
them. So
Faith
I'm
No
gonna have
More
to, again.
book
I'll read
biography. So
pretty. Say every night. I try to read every night. Occasionally, I don't because I like to watch documentaries as well. So I like to fucking plow through as many of them, and I end up falling asleep and just fucking listening to it. But
I got a lot more into film the last
oh,
few years. I've done some background acting work since I've been here in New Mexico, and so that got me a lot more interested in film. And you start watching film after you've done that and you've been on sets, then you just kind of see film in a completely different way, and it's
what's
sort of
the?
it's been
Because
fascinating to
I've
sort of
spoke to a
dig into
couple of
that
people
and studying art.
stateside that have, excuse me, worked in the film industry. I was on some guy's show a couple of weeks ago, and he was working out in LA. And again, I asked him like, what was the wildest shit that you'd seen, and he had come across a fake stairwell working in a film studio that he couldn't get that he couldn't go down it either. It was a bizarre one. He went to and then got stopped. So what's the? You seen any weird, wacky shit like that? Yeah.
Nothing too weird and wacky. When your background, they kind of herd you into holding areas and then set you free on set and tell you what they need you to do and then get you back. So any of the highest range assumption that goes on
Yeah.
is something that is more likely for the crew to see than the background actors. Among background actors, you just see because
Yeah, he was a sound
all
guy.
kinds of different people. So
Yeah.
you see a
Yeah,
lot.
I think I'm pretty sure.
Oh
I
yeah,
see. He said he was
he's
a
right there in
sound
the middle
guy.
of everything. Then
But it's just again, you always hear a lot of accusations, and there's always these stories that get buried. So it's always good to talk to someone, and then you go, this person's got a story, and it's not fucking. The narrative's real. There's no fakery or, you know. So it's a shame you haven't got one. I like hearing those kinds of tales. Ah.
yeah,
Who was it? You'll never work again. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. It was my first day of doing stand-in work ever, and I'd only been doing this for about a couple months at this point. And stand-ins is a little bit harder than doing background. You're helping set up shots and stuff. But
Yeah.
this director guy, and directors are always in a bad mood because they work all the time and they're just pissed off and they have to lead everybody. So this guy is like waving his arms at me from a block away, just wildly, and he thinks he's giving me some kind of directions, but there's no discernible direction in what he's doing. And so I just look at him and I'm like, you're going to have to use your words, buddy, and like he screamed that I was a fucking idiot right there in front of everybody. And I was like, if we were on the street together, you'd have just gotten punched in the nose.
You know that reference? Tropic Thunder with a fucking, bowed in half haircut and the big fat stubby fingers. That was one. It's so good. So good. It's amazing.
I just watched that a few weeks ago, actually, for the first time. So, yeah. It was recommended to me by an actor on a set. The last set that I was on, I was actually crew, and
so good. I love the fact that
finally I did dig in.
obviously Downey Jr. This is one of his it's a crazy role for him to be in. I know it's a wild thing to talk about, but I'm not going to get too much into it because I've already caused myself so much
Yeah.
shit. But it's a great film. It's funny. Um, and again, the point that he made about it was it it wasn't a racist point. He was making a strategic point about how bad it is. So that's why it's so good. Whew, sweat.
That's a hard thing for people to separate these days. Is that illustrating a bad behavior,
Yeah.
satire or whatever. Like people are so literalist now that they don't see that you can depict something and it not be favorable. You can depict something and be like, this is why it's absurd. This is why you shouldn't do
Yeah.
this if you're trying to be authentic. And we've just lost that. It's just sort of a bloodthirsty, moral contest out there
funny
to
because
be the top dog and find the next thing that's going to be destroyed.
Few people that complained because it was obviously the blackface thing is it shouldn't be portrayed, and the way it was portrayed, and most of the shit was terrible. But then there was a certain amount of white people that then was like, hey, but what about white chicks? And it was like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? That we're not talking. That's a completely different issue. They're not. They was portraying two women. That was, it was fucking the Hiltons. It wasn't just portraying some normal bloke. It was a complete satire move.
Yeah.
But the fact that a small number of people tried to get that shit cancelled and it just didn't fly, that proves exactly, what the fuck's going on.
Well, the newest one I saw is they're trying to cancel Terry Crews. Like the Idiocracy.
What was trying to cancel him for?
Trying to cancel the president of Idiocracy. Because he made a statement that black people need to involve white people in getting rid of white supremacy because without it just becomes black supremacy. And of course, he's making a point. He's saying that this has to be inclusive. We have to be hand in hand. We're moving into the future together. We're not. This just can't be a lifelong battle, and like that was his point. And he just, he like the only thing that's acceptable now for you to do is to make statements which are the next most grandiose statement, and you being morally superior to everyone else, and like any kind of speech that's really just trying to build actual allies and it's inclusive is being considered hate speech now. It's ridiculous. It's out of control. It's such an anti-intellectual environment that it just worries me.
It's just there's so many people out there that are almost trying to poke bears and fuck shit up, man. I know some of it is needed. Again, I always say, cancel culture. Am I for it? Am I against it? It's a tricky one because some of it does need to be negotiated correctly and removed, but then the way it's being gone about, it's kind of the wrong steps, and then it pisses somebody else off, and then it creates a bit of a fucking to and fro between society. Whereas if you go about it the right way, which is a very hard thing to navigate anyway, it's tricky. It's a tricky world we're living in. We probably shouldn't even be talking about it now. Two white guys discussing it, that in itself is probably seen as a fucking terrible move. So, yeah, we're doing it all the time. Hey, this is microaggression apparently. Fucking can't clap my hands, can't do this. What's fucking nonsense? Can't clap my hands. Of course I can. Anyway, let's. I'll give you one recommendation. A book. Have you ever read? Have you ever watched a show called The Last Kingdom? It's on Netflix. There's a book series by Bernard
No, I have not.
Cromwell. There's like 13, 14 books. It's all about obviously an English nobleman who was a pagan back in the day and got sort of adopted. And it's like a Vikings kind of deal. But the books are pretty amazing. They're quite easy reads, and if you're into that kind of shit, and they toss some real history into there as well, which is it's a good read. Last Kingdom, it's called. Anyway, I'm gonna let's round it up. So I'm sweating my balls off for some reason. It's all this pressure of the woke movement. They're laying it thick. So anyway, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. Thank you very much, Josh, for coming on. It's been a great fucking conversation.
I appreciate you having me on, Tim. I've had a great time, and I
no,
can't wait to hear this. I've listened
well,
to
no, thank you for coming on. You've made some really good points.
Yeah,
We've slandered Amber Heard. We've talked some conspiracy. It's been a good show. I hope you do try doing some stand-up. Again, I'm going to follow you, and I'm really hope that you do, because I can see you doing really well. Even if you just take 3-minute articles and just whack them up and just do something. I think you can. I think you're more talented than me. You're better spoken. If I could do it, you fucking can. You know.
Thanks. I'll get you a video because I'm going to do some reading.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely cool. Send them me and I'll post some stuff up myself. Anyway, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Turner.